9 podcasts.
Right, yeah, we can go.
Try before you die.
Just so everyone's aware, our producer Rich and myself have literally been sitting here for the past 5 minutes while Eliza sculls her coffee and then has to rinse her mouth out with water. And we're in a bit of a rush because we've got a lot to get through. And Eliza just has no empathy for anyone's time.
I think Rich sat there quite patiently and understandingly.
Because he sees you once a week. I deal with this 24 hours a day,
Whereas
every day.
You were razzing like no one's business. But I'll apology accepted. I know you're already quite agitated.
Yeah, I'm literally agitated. There's never any other reason why I'm agitated than you.
No, traffic annoys you. And when you're hungry.
Okay, hungry. But so that's what, 5% of the time, 95% of the time it's about you.
Do you want to just quick, shake it off?
No, I'm good. I'm sweet.
Okay,
Let's
just
crack on.
Because the look on your face is of sheer
Yeah, well,
anger.
that ain't going to change because while you're in my presence, that's how it's going to be.
Okay, so I'm going to go into this open-minded and positively
Same.
so we can balance out.
Oh, that's a nice change.
So we can balance out the aura of this episode. We are, this week, trying to not self-deprecate, which sounds easy, but having a dig at ourselves is now just a part of our DNA. It's a default setting for us, which is quite horrific to admit. So if we want to overcome this, it is literally about reprogramming ourselves at this point.
And really putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort.
Yes.
And catching ourselves doing it in order to make change because, yeah, it's got to a point where it's actually really unhealthy and affecting a lot of other parts of our life.
Now, we were just doing it willy-nilly, and I don't think it hit us how bad it's got until we recorded an episode of Osher's podcast with him.
This is Osher Gunsberg.
He has a podcast called Better Than Yesterday, and our chat with him will be out soon, so keep your eyes peeled
And your ears
for that.
peeled.
Keep your ears peeled for that. But by eyes, I meant because he might and we might,
Put things
mention
on
it on our
socials,
socials.
sure.
So eyes were
Eyes
relevant.
and ears.
Eyes and ears. But during that chat, we kept taking the piss out of ourselves, calling ourselves spinsters and desperate, the usual thing that we say about ourselves. I don't even notice it. But I believe it. I'm not saying it for effect. And I think it took Osher by surprise. It didn't quite land with him like it normally does with people. And it's weird to be in the presence of someone who's not used to it and that they don't fully understand it.
Well, it's probably because as well, our chat with him was probably an hour. Usually
Yeah.
if we're just having a chat with someone that we meet or whatever, it's
Yeah.
5 minutes, so they probably don't. But if you're chatting with someone for an hour
Yeah.
and they do it a lot,
Yeah.
it's going to be noticeable.
And Osher actually pulled us up on it a few times, but in a really beautiful, loving way, because Osher's podcast is all about, learning and empowerment, and he has some very intelligent people on his podcast. Oh, I was about to make a joke about ourselves then, but
We weren't two of them, is what
he
you
took
were
a
going to
little
say.
detour for a minute. And he said we need to stop talking down to ourselves like that. So
And have we done that since the episode?
Well, I mean,
No.
this got us thinking. On the back of that, we came away and I said, maybe we should try to stop and maybe we should then talk about it on the podcast. So can we actually stop these negative self-talk jokes? And I look at them as jokes. When I say it, it's in a jokey way. Anyway.
I don't fully believe that. We'll get to it, but I
Yeah.
don't fully believe that because a lot of the things you say, you actually think about yourself.
Well, we'll break it down in a second.
But we did try an episode on the podcast, which was trying to accept compliments.
Yes.
And to be honest, after that episode, like we did it during those few days.
Yeah.
After that episode, nothing changed for me. I
No.
continue to shoot them down. I don't take compliments
No.
well. I downplay any success or talent that people say that I have. And I don't feel like I've changed from that, which is awful. Have you?
No, God, no. I'm so bad at accepting a compliment. For me, I feel like it's arrogance if you accept a compliment.
Yeah.
It says, yes, I agree with that. And that's not necessarily the case. That's just and I don't see that in other people if they accept a compliment. But that's what I feel like if I accept a compliment. If someone says something nice or good about me, I get so shy and uncomfortable.
I know, but then if I say something to compliment someone else, like, oh, I love your dress or whatever, and they come back with like, it's disgusting. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that
I
makes
know.
me feel shit and uncomfortable and awkward.
I wouldn't say something like, oh, it's disgusting. I'd say something, oh, it was $20 from a corner store.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I'd come back with. I would never say thank you because to me, saying thank you was like, yeah, thank you. I know. I look like
amazing.
a massive babe.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
No, it
and if
isn't.
they said thank you, I would not think that. But
know.
I think if I say it, that's how it comes across. And we certainly don't fish for compliments by putting ourselves down because I
God,
think
no.
I wonder if people think that because I do know people who say things just to get compliments.
Because it actually annoys me more if I am self-deprecating and then someone tries to reiterate, no, but you are great at this or whatever. Like, I'm like, stop. I actually sometimes say, particularly to my family, I'll be like, I don't want anyone to say anything. This is how I feel. Please don't tell me I look good or please don't tell me that I'm good at that. It actually annoys me more.
Yes, Lib, you have these full rage episodes. If we try and tell you look nice, it's particularly in the family sphere, particularly Dad, because we don't put much store by Dad's compliments because bless him, he thinks we look nice regardless.
But here's the thing, I so deeply believe those things about myself,
the negative things
about myself, that if someone then tries to correct me or tell me otherwise, I think they're bullshitting.
Yeah.
Because I so deeply think, the negative things are true of myself. Which is,
you get annoyed.
Yeah.
It actually got to the point over Christmas when we were home where I had to say, don't bother saying it. She doesn't believe it and it just makes her angry, which
would
I
annoy
think
me
is
more.
so
sad.
fucked. Can
I
I
know.
just say, excuse my language? That's highly cooked. Because you actually are at the point where you, physically
I know.
are repulsed by compliments.
I know.
And you think they're deliberately doing it as like a dig.
Wait, before we continue, I just want to give a definition of self-deprecation for those that might not know.
Wait, before you even get to that, our baby sister is very good at taking a compliment.
I know.
She will say yes, and sometimes she'll even tag it on with, oh, yes, I know.
Or like, yes, queen.
Yes,
and
queen.
stuff,
Yeah,
like-
I do. That's more just around us for fun. But
Yeah.
she just owns it and takes it.
I love that
and
though.
Same.
I wish I
actually
had
love
some
it.
of her confidence in me.
Yeah, same. But yeah, people quickly find out that when they give us a compliment, we're not good at receiving them, and that if they try and give us another compliment, we're just going to continue shooting it down.
Yeah. Can I do
Now
my
you
definition
may.
now?
Now you may.
So the definition of self-deprecation is the act of reprimanding oneself by belittling, undervaluing, disparaging oneself, or being excessively modest. It can be used as a way to make complaints, express modesty, invoke optimal reactions, or add humour.
Adding humour is a big one.
Yeah.
People are so kind to us in the public. And we always take their compliments and poke fun at ourselves. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely.
So they might come up to us and say, they're fans of the block. They saw us on the block. And that, oh, you're so beautiful in real life, right? And that's not to say you were ugly on the show and you're beautiful in real life. They don't say it like that. They just mean like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful.
And our immediate reaction is always, oh, well, we were gutter rats on the show. We couldn't get much worse. We were disgusting. Like,
yeah, we just reflex back with something horrific about ourselves, like, oh yeah, well, I guess that's because we were swollen, filthy gutter rats on the show.
I know, I don't think we've ever just been like, oh, thank you, that's so lovely.
Yeah, no, because that just is not us.
I know.
Why can't we just say, Oh, thank you so much.
know.
That's really kind.
We should.
Like, I can't even repeat what these people say without wincing, like,
Yeah.
oh, you girls are so beautiful. Oh, it makes me feel funny even saying that. When do you think we started all of this?
It's funny because when I was thinking about this, I feel like I started recognizing it a few years ago. But then when I thought deeper about it, I was like, well, I had an eating disorder when I was 18. So I was so negative about myself then. All I could do was negative self-talk during that period. So for me, I think it was kind of around then that it started for me. So, oh my God, that's like what, 17, 18 years.
That's bad.
That's so bad.
I actually think it's a later in life thing for me. I was so self-conscious through school. I was a enthusiastic, lively person, but also I didn't want to stand out too much. So I wanted to have a personality, but I didn't want people to poke fun at me or notice me too much. Do you know what I mean?
Things have changed.
Yeah, I was so so cautious about what everyone thought of me. I was very curated. Again, how much has changed. And as we know, I had social anxiety because of it, because I just cared too much. And I actually am still incredibly self-conscious. But for some reason, I find joking about myself really freeing. And I feel like people feel comfortable with me very quickly when I do that. That's my experience.
Because it's relatable. Because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of what you say or when you do it in a jokey way or whatever, people can really feel that in themselves as
Yes.
well. And they might not say it out loud, but when you say it, they're like, oh my God, me too, kind of thing.
Because if you were to meet someone, who's your dream to meet, right? Think of someone.
Oh, I couldn't possibly.
Say it's Katy Perry,
Yeah.
right?
It's definitely not her.
and you meet her and she's stiff and I mean, I hear wonderful things about Katy Perry, but this is just an example. And, she's a bit cold or whatever. You're going to be intimidated and you're going to feel uncomfortable. But if she was like, hey, and,
Had a bit of a joke.
have a bit of a joke with herself and brought, was down to earth, I feel like that makes that person more approachable. That's how I view it. Not that I'm comparing myself to Katy Perry. I just mean in general life.
Yeah.
It makes you more approachable, I think. And I don't know where this started or where it came from exactly, but I think it was to cover the embarrassment of being eternally single.
Well, our family never ever spoke
No.
negatively in front of us about anything.
No.
I never recall, as children, like we weren't ever shamed or we were always given, encouragement for everything, to do what we want, to make us happy. It was a really healthy environment that we grew up in. For me, obviously, like body image is a big thing, but we had takeaway once or twice a week. We were never restricted in what we could like eat or do. We were always given so much support and compliments from our parents and that kind of thing. So it's definitely not from, the household and our family, because I feel like that was always really healthy for us growing up.
I actually, the more I've been thinking about it, I think it was after I moved from Adelaide to Melbourne, and then I would visit Adelaide and I would feel this necessity to just put out there, I'm single and desperate and whatever, just to own my situation, because I've mentioned this before when I would go back to Adelaide, because everyone I know, legitimately, this is not an exaggeration, is with partner and child.
Yeah.
And so I would stick out like a sore thumb when I would go back, and people would ask me, what's going on with you? Have you found a man? Oh, it's okay. You will one day. Don't worry. And I'd be like, I'm not worried. I'm living my best life, but okay. And so it was like an automatic reflex to get on the front foot before they even brought it up, and then it's covered. So I reckon it started from there.
I feel like for me, over the years, my self-deprecation's been for a whole different range of reasons. So obviously my eating disorder, I reckon, brought it out in me first, because I genuinely hated myself, what I looked like, how I felt. But then I also, sort of a vicious cycle, because then I hated the life that I was experiencing. So it was difficult to be positive in that regard in any way. And also I tried to hide that though during that period. I would never be outwardly negative. It was all massively internally.
Yeah.
And I think it's been ever since then, a real lack of self-esteem, a real lack of confidence. It's my also version of control because I have to be able to control things. So the perfectionism that I have, acknowledging my flaws before others can point them out is a sense of control for me because then I control the narrative, not someone else. It's also a bit about comparison. I mean, I mostly compare myself to earlier versions of myself, but just that inferiority and feeling like I'm not good enough. I can preempt the worst criticism that anyone could ever give me by saying it myself. But then in more recent times, I feel like, we're always taught to be really humble and not arrogant. So I think self-deprecation definitely is a reflection on that. I never want to come across being arrogant or having an ego or anything. And I want to leave a lasting impression of not being conceited. So there's also a tendency to go too far in the other direction though, where you downplay your positive attributes or, insult yourself so much in order to appear humble that then it affects you so
you start
negatively.
believing it.
Yeah.
When you talk about your eating disorder, so the internal voice.
Yeah.
So and you were unwell for about a year and you had quite intense psychotherapy. And then you describe it, which is quite unusual. And you just kind of snapped out of it.
Yeah,
It was weird.
really
So
weird.
was this internal voice different to what you experience now?
Definitely. And that's where it's sort of weird and it's really hard to explain unless you've kind of been through it. It's like the way I think now is just kind of me and myself and my subconscious.
Yeah.
Whereas with that, it's literally like someone else is living inside your head telling you to do things. And it's fighting the battle against my brain's telling me to do the right thing and then this other person's telling you no. It's literally like angel versus devil gear.
Wow.
Which is why it's so effed up and why people, there's always people out there that are like, just eat or whatever. Like it's an actual person inside your head that's telling you these things.
We need to do a proper episode because like the stuff that happened was
so
and what we
cooked.
experienced as your family, it was a lot.
It's almost an out of body experience thinking back on it is how I can describe it.
You're not in control of your body.
Yeah.
And then just one day you woke up and that sort of voice was gone. I mean, you did a lot of work.
I know. And I think because when I said that to the psychologist I was seeing at the time, he's like, it's definitely not that you've just snapped out of it because it obviously took a while for me to get back to a healthy place. But it genuinely did feel like I woke up one morning and just chose to change my mindset and be like, I can't live my life like this. Like I was so miserable and it was all consuming. I just didn't want to live like that anymore. It was less probably snapping out of the actual disorder, but more so just choosing a different path and a different mindset.
But yeah, everyone's different and like what saved you was getting professional help.
Yeah.
So that is what we advise for anyone in that situation. But yeah, for me, it's about getting in first, like you sort of touch on, so I can put myself down before anyone else does. It's like a full shield. And it was my full-time shtick on the block, right? And I don't mean shtick as in putting on an act. I just mean it was my full-time shield to be self-deprecating. So if something went wrong, it was expected and preempted. It's a defense mechanism that protects me from the embarrassment of failure because I expected it to happen.
Yeah.
So there you go. And it's just a bonus if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's just so I'm not blindsided by the embarrassment of failure because I anticipated it. And it's a bonus if I succeed.
You can't be surprised by anything someone has said or because you've already said it yourself.
Yep. So, and it's not like I don't believe it as well. I'm just saying it's a possibility for myself. And so if it happens, I preempted that. It's not a shocking thing. I can deal with it.
And people almost, like can't laugh at you or make a headline about it because the headline's already out there.
I've already put the headline out there.
And I think particularly on the block, because we went into it with no idea what we were doing, we from day one, even in our auditions and interviews and stuff, were like, we have no idea what we're doing, like blah, blah, blah. We did that from day one. So when you say it was our shtick, it's not like we were putting all of this on, but it just became we were the couple that were always self-deprecating and always making fun of ourselves because that was our coping mechanism to get through it.
Yes. And I think we're now spending more time with each other and we poke a lot of fun at each other. We get annoyed with each other a lot. So I think we would never bring each other down in a serious way.
no.
But, we touch on the, like the cankles and the things like that. And I think, it's become so fully ingrained in us. And I think we definitely took it to another level on the block. Just naturally, we just became these people that assumed we were going to stuff up. And so if we did, there you
Great.
go.
We
And
were
if we
prepared.
didn't, oh my God, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, we won a room this week. Whoa. And everyone be like, whoa, can
Yeah.
you believe it? And
And it's almost like the only way is up. If we start on that base level of being self-deprecating and saying how shit we are or we're not going to be able to do this, if something does happen, we can't then really be let down. Like the only way is to go up and up and up. But we did get to a point on the block, though, where Scott Cam was like, enough of the cook tuners, enough of the self-deprecation, because I think it got to a point where we were just doing it too much and people were just over it. Do you know what, though? I think as well part of, I say this industry that we're in, but like being a bit in the media and that kind of thing, we've always wanted to maintain being so down to earth and being modest and kind and empathetic. So again, I think that's a sort of a technique in order for us to remain that way and not get arrogant and not have that ego, even though I don't think we would get there. But that also is a way to ensure that you are more relatable to your audience,
But
I think.
Yeah, and I also think it allows us to connect with people because we get so many messages from people being like, oh my gosh, I feel the same or I'm the same. And it's just, I think that fuels our ability to put ourselves down. And I don't mean that it sounds negative, but I don't feel negative about it when I'm publicly self-deprecating. It's the stuff behind closed doors I think is unhealthy, which we'll touch on. But what were you going to say?
I was just going to say as well, it's also for me a form of compensation for people that I might have succeeded over. So I'll give you an example. I constantly find myself putting myself down and trying to make others feel better or not so bad about a situation if I've done, let's say, better. That sounds floggy, but you know what I mean, better than them. So let's say the open homes example and hosting that, and they asked me to come back and you'd done an episode and they didn't ask you to come back. So for me, it's like my immediate thing, which once again, I believe, but I also feel like it's going to make you feel better as well, that I'm like, oh, but I'm only doing a few and I'm actually not very good at it and they only want me because of this. And I don't like that's my immediate thing is to not be like, oh, well, maybe I'm just a bit better at it than you.
No, and I was so happy for you and you knew that that's your strength and not mine. And so, but I understand that. That's natural. Human decency, but we do know people that are just very confident with their success. They love to talk about it. They own it. And I'm happy for them. And I think there's the right balance, but you and I do feel sometimes that maybe like it doesn't, sometimes it does make us feel shit about ourselves. So I think we're hyper aware of that and we really struggle to share our successes in a big way. We always have to talk our successes down because we know how it makes us feel when someone rubs that in our face. But I think we're just going by the select few people who aren't that polite with how they share their successes. I think there are people who can do it the right way and I don't think we do it the right way. I think there's a happy medium.
But to your point before, I think the biggest thing for us now is trying to shield the embarrassment of not having a partner, not having kids, the fact that we still live together. I feel like it's a big one. Like when people say, oh, you guys living together, our automatic thing is to be like, oh yeah, but only out of convenience and to save
we
some
hate
money
it
because
and like
it's so expensive.
How lame is it? And
even though people are like, oh, that's really nice or whatever, but for us it's like, oh no, well that's so embarrassing and what are people going to think about that? We just think about what people think too much
because it just screams spinster 9 cats weirdness.
Absolutely.
So should we talk through a day in the life of our inner self dialogue? Do you know the only thing that I back myself on is probably a well-written email.
Oh God, isn't that sad?
I'm good at emails. I'm good at writing. Do you know what? No, external things I take credit for. Like if someone says that dinner you cooked was beautiful, I'll say thank you. It's the internal, physical, personal stuff I can't take.
Yeah.
How do you sit with that?
Oh God, I mean, it makes me sad to hear you say that because you're so unbelievable at so many things. But I'm a bit the same in terms of a huge amount of my self-deprecation, like I said before, centers around how I look and my perfectionism. If something isn't perfect, I will self-deprecate, and nothing's ever perfect. So essentially I'm just self-deprecating the whole time. And from the moment I wake up, for me, physically, I think about, how do I feel today? Like, is my stomach bloated? I look at myself in the mirror as I'm making my way to the shower and look at how, I look in the mirror. If something isn't, I might not look as good as I did yesterday and I'm immediately a failure. The way I talk to myself is so disgusting. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, why couldn't you be stronger yesterday? Why, where was your willpower? How have I let myself get like this? You look disgusting. I beat myself up whether I can fit into clothes. At work, then if I make a mistake, I think about it and beat myself up
You do not cope with mistakes.
ages. If I eat something that's outside of my meal plan, if I'm doing that, the whole failure narrative comes again.
This is a flow on from your eating disorder, and I know you still work on it with your psychologist.
It's definitely not. I don't want people to like worry because it's not. I'm not in that eating disorder, but there's definitely little elements of it,
and you have an awareness, I think, which is key to everything.
But then as well, when we leave this podcast studio, I reckon when we're at our worst, because we walk out of here and we are so negative. We're like, that was so shit. How bad were we?
Yeah, we're going to get cancelled. Like, no one's going to listen.
It's very rare that we say, oh, that was a really good episode. Like, we did a really good job. I'm excited to hear that come out. We dread hearing it come out because we're like, ugh, hearing ourselves back is awful. Oh.
Can I say, I don't think yours is self-deprecation. I think mine is self-deprecation because I think I'm jokey mostly. I think yours is negative self-talk. So you use the word self-deprecation. I don't think it's that. When we're around the public and we make jokes, I think that's self-deprecation, but I think 90% of yours is negative self-talk that's really unhealthy.
Mine, I think, comes from a place of such deep-rooted self-loathing, deep-rooted low self-confidence, self-esteem. Like, I've gone through phases where I genuinely hate everything about myself. God, that sounds so
really
cooked,
sad.
but I'll literally be like, if you asked me to find something positive to say about myself, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
And we have had big arguments where I'm like, I don't know how to get through to you, and this is getting me down.
Yeah.
And my self-deprecation doesn't get me down. Just
but
FYI.
your self-deprecation gets me down as well because you probably 100 times a day say things about your appearance. You're like, I look disgusting. My face looks so fat. Look at my cankles. Oh, like fat.
This is the stuff. I think the stuff at home is really unhealthy, and I think that's what's come to light. But when I say it, I'm not like you where I don't have this deep self-loathing. I'm just like, I'm just a bit disappointed in myself because I know that I'm not doing anything to do better.
I know, but I think it's the frequency in which you say it because it is non-stop.
Yeah. Okay. But mine's different to you. I'm telling you, mine's different to
I'm
yours.
Not saying
yours is like you hate yourself so much.
And I'm not saying it's different, but I'm just saying yours is impactful in a different way. It's the frequency of how much you say it, and mine is the genuine self-loathing.
Like, because I don't dislike myself. Do you?
Yeah.
That's so sad.
I know. I shouldn't laugh
that's
because
actually
it is sad.
So sad. Like, when I joke about things, I don't like those things, but I like myself. And of course, things disappoint me, and there's so much better I could be doing in certain areas. But I have an awareness, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm okay with myself.
That's good, and I wish I was, and I'm definitely working on it. And also, I would never in a million years speak to anyone, family, friend, my worst enemy, the way that I speak to myself. So I'm like, why? If I heard other people, I mean, you doing it frustrates me, but if I heard my best friends talk about themselves like that, I would be absolutely mortified, and I would want to shake them and be like, you do realise this isn't true, and stop being so negative to yourself. So why is it okay for us to do this to ourselves?
Well, there's that. And also, I was thinking about others saying to us what we say to ourselves would be so highly offensive, right? So I joke about my gut and my cankles, and that's okay, and I'm okay with it, and it doesn't get me down, even though it's quite negative. But if someone DM'd us saying I had a fat gut or hideous cankles, I'd be mortified. But at least, to be honest, I'd have the rebound mechanism of being able to say, yeah, cool, I know. I say that every day. The ability to respond with that, as hurt as I would be, makes me feel like I can disarm the person trying to hurt me because I just know that already.
But you can also take a joke. Remember when Scotty Cam bought 3 packets of Tim Tams? One for me, one for you, and one for your ankles.
Yeah, so that's funny. that's funny. Yeah.
We do constantly feed you cankles. We always buy another serve of things.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. But like if someone actually wrote, wow, your
No,
ankles
totally.
make me sick, which I would, but again, I would understand that, like, honestly, anyway, God, this is all very alarming. But our family definitely notices it. So when we were, especially with you, and they get especially worried with you. So our baby sister actually pulled you aside.
She took me aside. We went for a nice walk in Adelaide, and this is so unlike her. And she literally pulled me aside and was like, I'm really worried. Like, is there anything that I can do to help you? I hate the way that you speak to yourself. They really notice how much because even when I was in Adelaide recently, Mum was like, oh, you're looking so great at the moment. And I was just like, ooh.
Yeah, because we think you get too bulky and muscly, and you love that look about you. You want to be a bodybuilder.
I don't want to. You say this every time. I don't want to be a bodybuilder, but I just want to look really strong.
And so we all think you look amazing at the moment, and you find that so highly offensive. That to you is like us saying that you've put on weight and you're not toned anymore.
I so deeply don't believe what people are saying to me that I think it's a joke and that you're making it up. But when I think about, I find it really unattractive if someone is constantly and always talking about themselves poorly. Like, I don't think if I was on a date with someone and they were just talking about how fat they were and gross they were and how shit they are at this, I'd be like, oh my God, this person needs to like get a hold of themselves.
Oh, I'm attracted to confidence and charisma.
Yes, exactly.
The opposite of what I am, which is so bizarre. But also I hate arrogant. So this is where I'm so scared of being arrogant that I think that's what sends me over the edge. But I love someone who knows who they are and what they want. I just think it's more acceptable, however. I just think it's more acceptable for a guy to be like that.
I know.
And to have a level of arrogance, which is not okay. No. And society kind of tears down females in particular if they're up themselves. So that's my greatest fear.
Yeah, there's a really, really, really fine line with that. But I find that if I have a catch up with a friend and the whole time they're just talking negatively about themselves, I walk away from that feeling so drained and being like, I can't see them for ages.
Yeah.
That's how I probably am to my friends.
Yeah, negative people are draining and horrible to be around. But I would like to think that we aren't there yet. Having said that, doing this challenge, maybe we are. Or I always had and have so much trouble in job interviews.
Oh, like talking up to yourself.
Selling yourself. Yeah. It's gross.
Even for this podcast, how we had to write ourselves a bio, I was like, ugh.
I know. And when the question rolls round of what do you think a negative might be? And everyone always answers, I'm too perfectionistic, I'm like, oh, how long have you got? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I am going to take notes when we're overseas because I sometimes wonder if it's a really Australian thing, which I think it is, to be self-deprecating and jokey.
Yeah.
I Googled it and other cultures do utilise self-deprecating humour, though the specific way it manifests and the degree to which it's used can vary. Australia is known for its prevalent use of self-deprecation in social interactions, but it's not unique to Australian culture. Other cultures, including some European, Asian and North American cultures, also employ self-deprecating humour for various reasons, such as humility, social bonding, or softening criticism. Like, I feel like Italians, like, I just picture like your nonna being like, you're so fat.
Yes. From my experience, having a large Italian family, they can be very judgmental.
Yes.
And not afraid to say, that top makes you look fat.
Yeah, or
why
are
are
you
you
not
wearing
married?
that?
Or
Yes. It's a stereotype, but
Yeah.
they all come from some form of truth.
Yeah. So
God, imagine if our mum told us we were fat. Like,
But-
that would be
but-
the worst thing ever.
Equally so, if there's something positive, they'll say, if you look at that, you could be a model.
Yeah.
Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, there's no one more beautiful in the world. So it goes both ways.
There's no one more beautiful. in the world.
It's happened before.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
okay. So there's variations of it.
We need to stop this though, because particularly you thinking about going down the path of kids, we cannot be speaking
No.
like this to ourselves around children.
And also, I hate people putting people down.
I know.
We're such advocates for kindness. I hate bullying. I hate trolling more than anything. So why do we accept trolling and bullying ourselves? Like, what would you think if you heard other people talking to themselves or other people like
Yeah.
that? We would not be okay with it. I'm also great at giving people advice.
Yeah, you got to take
Dating
your own
advice,
advice.
etc. And I'm a dating guru, but I would not
You're
be
a
able.
dating guru.
I'm really good at giving advice. I'm telling you. I seriously.
I beg at your
Yeah, if
pardon.
someone came
Sorry,
to
if
me
you're
and
a
had a
dating
scenario-
guru, wouldn't you have a partner?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm really good. If someone came to me with their scenario, I'd be able to say, "This is what you need to do X, Y, Z," but I wouldn't be able to do it myself. So
Dear God.
I don't walk what I talk.
I don't think you walk and talk any of that. to
So
be honest.
as you touched on, it's a big problem now because I'm looking at having children, and I cannot have this around children, and I cannot have my child thinking this is okay to speak to others like that, or themselves like that, or me like that. So yeah, I can't have them copying it or thinking it's normal.
Yeah, and as someone who's gone through an eating disorder and reading up now and hearing stories about the age at which kids are developing eating disorders and things like as young as 8 years old and things like that, like I can't, the language around what I was telling myself and talking to myself about during that time, that is just so detrimental.
We need to be building kids up, especially because of this judgmental social media, cosmetic surgery, shallow world.
It can cause so much damage. So whilst, it can be associated with humility and, self-deprecation can also promote self-sabotage. Like your self-esteem. The more I tell myself negative
Yeah.
things, the more I'm going to hate myself. So it's actually not helping me at all. And the opposite can actually be true for yourself when you're trying to make others feel more comfortable by being self-deprecating than you're feeling shitter about yourself.
They become more self-conscious. Yeah, right. I don't want that.
Anxiety and depression can result from it. So, if you said something to someone else, it would probably damage their mental health. Like if I said, your gunt's disgusting, that would probably damage your mental health. So, of course, it's going to damage mine. It makes you feel less optimistic. And there's difficulty in finding excitement in things if you're minimizing your accomplishments or feelings, which is quite true. Like if I tell myself I'm shit at something, I then don't get excited about doing that next thing because I'm so scared of being terrible at it. It can ruin relationships, which once again, when you're catching up with these people and they're so draining on your life, it means, people are less likely to want to be around you. Discomfort for other people, I don't think we think about that. We are so down when it comes to people complimenting us or whatever, that must be awkward and uncomfortable for people to be around.
What I don't like is when you're down on yourself, you might be down on your weight or whatever, and you have people around you who may
Actually
have a
have weight
problem.
problems
That
or
really
whatever, yeah.
upsets me. And you don't, interestingly, we don't see people as we see ourselves.
exactly.
So you would never, for example, if I'm saying something about myself, about my weight, if I saw someone like
equivalent of you,
myself
yeah.
out in the environment, I would never call a size 10 fat. And I'm a size 10, but I call myself that.
Do you know what my fear is? That we're going to actually start losing opportunities if we're constantly around
Yeah.
people and being negative. They might start to believe that that's what we're like or not want to be around our company.
Right, so should we get to the actual
How it went.
how it went? So we did this across a Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. We wanted to be in a work environment, a social environment. We went to a charity ball and exercising. We went to another hot mat yoga class and we took notes as we went. I'll start off with how Lib went. Exceptional. Honest to God, I do not have one example of Lib talking negatively, but I can tell that every time I expected her to say something negative, I would look at her and you look like you were a little baby doing a shit because I could tell that
Yeah.
you were desperately trying not to to say anything. You were trying so hard.
Well, it's funny because even though, yes, I did do quite well and made a real conscious effort not to say things out loud, internally, it doesn't mean I was not saying those things to myself. So I'm like, yes, it was probably helpful that I wasn't saying them like for your sake, being around me, or for others' sake that are around me and that I make feel uncomfortable when I say these things. It was still going on inside my head, the negativity.
Yep. Okay. But hopefully as you stop doing it outwardly, maybe the inwardly will ease up.
Maybe. But I found that such hard work not to do it. I actually found it harder not to do it than if I just naturally said it.
Yeah, better out than in, eh?
Yeah. And
that's not good.
It's like word vomit. And I literally felt like I had to physically swallow it back down again. But I would try to, like, there was one time where I went to say, oh, I look disgusting. And I just went, oh, I look a bit weird. Like, I just tried to be a bit. I know.
Good. So I failed.
You did.
Miserably.
Can I touch on some of the things that you said?
Yep.
There's quite a lot. So we took a picture with our sister at the markets when we were there on the weekend, and she's like, oh, that's not very nice of me. My face looks so fat. We took a video. Someone took a video of you and posted it on social media, and you said, I look like Michelin Man.
Yep, I was wearing a puffer jacket.
You did a stint on Open Homes, which is on TV, and you said, before it even started, you said, I bet I'm shit. I wish everyone wasn't sitting here watching with me because you, myself, and our little sister were watching it together. You're like, I'm going to be so shit. No wonder they didn't ask me back. We'll see why really soon.
Yeah.
I texted you one day when I was at work asking how you were, and you were like, I'm fat and lonely. You've said things
bad.
like...
That is so bad.
So bad. That's your exact words. And then you just did a lot of, I look disgusting, I look so gooby, I genuinely want surgery on my ankles. It's just a lot of that gear constantly.
I look like a hobo was another one. Like I even started noting down my own ones as I was going about my day.
Yeah.
You said to me, nice brows.
Yeah, and you were like, ooh.
I said, nah, they're cooked. They're dying in the arse. Yeah. I need to get them redone. This is probably the worst one. Oh, you also said another one of, oh, that's a nice pic of you. And I said, are you kidding? I look so haggard.
Yeah.
My face is melting. Like, this is the worst one. Mum texted me and said, it's your turn to come home and visit us now, Eliza, in Adelaide, because you'd been by yourself. Scarlett had been by herself. And I said, but I'm not sure if the plane can carry me. I've put on so much weight. And I mean,
that is so like, that's such a huge exaggeration, which is like...
It's hideous.
So that's not even...
funny. It's not funny.
No,
that's not even funny.
Not even
but that doesn't hurt me. I'm not saying, I'm just being funny, and because I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm embarrassed. That was me trying. I don't like it. I would never speak like that to other people. I think it's disgusting. But that was about a 50% reduction for me.
It's confronting though how hard this was. When I think about it, and I'm like, how many times I had to catch myself. Because there were so many things as well. Like, I hate watching myself when these Open Homes episodes come on. I'm so self-critical. Listening to myself on the podcast, I'm so self-critical. We went to a big event and, you know, we had to get dressed up and I don't feel good about myself. So the whole time I was like, ugh, I feel disgusting, but I didn't say it out loud. But it's just unbelievable how many times we automatically just go to say a comment that is so negative, particularly when people are so lovely
Kind
to
to
us.
us, yeah.
I just can't. We just get so many nice DMs, people out in public, and for some reason we just can't take that on no matter how much we get it. But literally the day after this challenge was finished, I was right back into it again. The first thing I said when we were at coffee, I'd been to the toilet, I came out and I was like, have you ever seen me look uglier?
Yeah. Yep. You love to call yourself ugly. If I had to stop my self-deprecation, I'd feel so uncomfortable.
I know.
I wouldn't feel myself. I would struggle with what my identity is. I think my humour is self-deprecation. But I do think the weight stuff needs to go upon reflection. The fat and ugly talk, the stuff you wouldn't feel comfortable saying in public. I think that's the test. What we say behind closed doors that we would never say in front of anyone else because then they would feel bad about themselves or we would never say that about them. I think that's where it needs to stop. So where to from here?
Wait, I just have a couple more things to add. I think when I look at you, I'm like, you have such amazing, good qualities about you. And I'm sure you would maybe say the same about me. But we need to try and start focusing more on the positive things. I feel like I'm holding back from success. And you've
Yeah.
said this to me before.
Yeah.
Because of what I think about myself, I feel like there's probably so much more I can achieve. But because I don't see myself as capable, I'm not making the most probably of opportunities.
No, you self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage massively.
And you psych yourself out.
But I think what this has shown is that we now have a very, very good awareness of it and how much it's impacting other people.
And how it's become unhealthy,
Yep.
particularly if we want to bring a child into the
And I want to be
equation.
kinder to myself. I don't want to be this person.
No.
Having like making notes about this episode was like a therapy session for me, and like writing in a journal for me. I am really, really trying to work on my positive self-talk, but actually believe it, not just.
Yes.
And maybe the more you say it, the more you believe it. I don't know. Maybe even
Well-
faking it to yourself will then make you believe it.
I've
I don't know.
got a tip in a sec.
Okay.
But so I believe in manifesting.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to be putting these negative vibes out there.
Yeah.
I believe in manifesting, yet I don't do it.
Yeah.
And also there's that big idea of you have to love yourself before anyone
Mhm.
can love you. And I think this is a big one for you because finding a partner is not a priority for me in any way. I'm focused on the child thing. But as I mentioned, I actually like myself. You don't. And I think it is unattractive. And yes, okay, so there's things I'd want to change about myself, but I think you genuinely, as we said, dislike yourself and don't think you're worthy.
And I feel like life's so short. I don't want to live my life like this. And I think there's a real sweet spot between the, humility we crave and we want to showcase, but then as well, the self-confidence that we should have without it being arrogant. I want to get better at accepting compliments from people.
Yeah.
I have actually started journaling, which I feel like has helped because then I can maybe write down my comments rather than, say them out loud.
Yeah.
But even then, it's funny how much negative stuff I do write in there and self-hate I do write in there. Anyway.
Well, maybe it's better to get it out in a journal rather than
exactly.
say it.
And then it's just kind of done. But yeah, I definitely think we need to make an active decision to be more positive, and only we can make that decision at the end of the day. We need to cultivate a culture, even within our household, I think,
agree.
where we view and communicate ourselves more positively.
I agree. Mel Robbins sums it up well, I think, and I think this is a good place to start. You're saying, I don't know how I do it. So she says, in order to stop rejecting yourself, you have to build a belief system that is rooted in self-compassion and self-acceptance. And we have to delete the shame. Let's create a meaningful mantra. 1, it must be something you believe right now. We're not gaslighting, we're reprogramming. 2, it must give you a feeling of relief. And the reason why this is so important is because you're so used to criticizing yourself. So that if you're suddenly like, oh, I love my body, I love myself, your brain's going to be like, no, we don't. We've been criticizing ourselves for 20 years. I don't believe that
Too far,
garbage.
yeah.
So you got to start with something real. You have to say something you truly believe. Examples of meaningful mantras include, I'm proud that I'm trying to be kinder to myself. I deserve to feel good about myself rather than I'm a hot piece of ass. Like, that's ridiculous. So one small mantra, one small thought, one moment of grace at a time. That's how real change happens, she says. And I think that's the key.
Baby steps.
Baby
Affirmations and gratitude, I feel like as well. Gratitude, I reckon is a big one too, because lately, particularly you, just focus on the negatives of everything all the time. And we have a lot of good shit in our lives. We need to focus on the gratitude, because I think that also then flows on into us being more positive about ourselves.
Yeah, because I say that I like myself and it's a jokey thing and it's not unhealthy, but I do think it is becoming a bit unhealthy.
Yeah.
I think I'm becoming more and more like you.
Yeah. And it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm willing to do that because I truly do want to be a better person. And no
Same.
one's going to like me if I don't like myself.
And we want to put a good version of ourselves out there, and we want to attract. You attract what you put out
Totally.
there, and what we're putting out there is not pretty.
I'm attracting hate.
Yeah.
Hatred.
So to finish off, say 2 things you like about yourself.
Well, isn't this funny though? Because our producers put this at the end of our run sheet and they wrote, list 5 things
Yeah.
that you like about yourself. And we literally looked at each other and we were like, lol, we can't do that. Let's change it to 2. So even that in itself
I know.
is so
Disturbing.
bad. Anyway, I've put I like my eyes and I like my willpower.
Okay, because I was going to say I'm kind and thoughtful.
Yep.
But then I was like, that's not a looks thing. I would never give myself props looks-wise. I think I'd be an amazing mum, but again, that's not proven either way. I think I have nice skin. I think I have an inoffensive face.
Oh my God.
But that's
think I'm pretty.
No, well,
No,
I
I'm
could
joking, I'm
never
joking.
say
No, I know.
that. So I think that's as good as you're going to get.
But that's why I've said my eyes, because I was just given them. That's nothing that like
Oh, stop.
I've worked
Stop.
for.
You're
Anyway,
undoing the
yeah,
good
yeah,
you've
yeah,
done.
okay.
All right, so to finish, let's do a Hall of Fame.
All
I think that was
right.
so cathartic, and I'm sure it's relatable, and I feel bad that we put that poison out there, but
I
let's
know.
turn over a new leaf.
And do you know what? Today we're going to do a kind Hall of Fame.
Great.
That is a review from a lovely one of our listeners, because we feel that we should do something that makes ourselves feel better and give us a little bit more self-confidence.
This
So
was an
here we go.
Apple review, I believe.
And the title is Love Your Work, 5 stars. Hey girls, just wanted to write a quick review to say I look forward to your podcast every week. You are both so relatable and listening feels like hanging out with good friends and having a laugh. Your podcast has often cheered me up and given me a break whilst going through a particularly challenging time in my life. Love it. So isn't it funny? Even reading that out, I'm like, oh, I feel so floggy. But that is so lovely. And anytime that someone says we're helping them through a challenging time is just the best compliment you could ever receive.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the charity ball we're at and the few people that came up and said, oh, I listened to your podcast. What did we say back? We said, oh, well, that makes one person.
Yeah.
We've got to stop that.
Yeah.
So we do know there's more people listening. We do know that it has a positive effect on people.
Yeah.
And hearing that, we will absorb, and we are very grateful for, and thank you for taking the time to provide that review.
And we will walk out of this room today saying, what a great episode.
No, because, Lib, we can't be fake or gaslighting of ourselves. Not to say that we thought that was a bad
I
episode.
think this has been a really great
yes,
episode.
but with small steps and just like,
so
well
you're
done.
shutting me down when I'm trying to be positive.
No, I'm going to say, well done for doing your best, Eliza.
Okay, what I'm going to say, what a great episode.
Okay, great. Thank you for having us, guys, in your ears. We love you dearly. You know where to find us on all the platforms.
All the platforms, all the I platforms.
Yep. Thank
See you next
See you
week.
next time.
Bye.
Try before you die.